And with that, then the first agenda item is this is, as Mr. Takeuchi, the chair, stated, our second public forum on homeless issues. The first one back in November 8th of 2011 was, again, one of the, aside from our first gang forum, was probably the best received or best attended. Very good discussion. It started off with, early on with questioning whether or not the feedings in the park, or the general question as far as whether the feedings in the park that had been going on for several years prior, whether they were truly accomplishing what was originally set out as far as trying to not only feed them, but then also gain access and trust and hopefully work to get in them some alternatives. It was clear from the discussion that evening that that it was still a very valuable effort and should continue. But some of the other discussions that evening were some of the programs that could be considered or should be considered for the future. One of them being the need for a detox facility as in this community, or in this general, actually throughout the county. One of the issues as far as trying to get folks that are on the street into some of the existing programs is that they are under the influence or intoxicated or not of a condition where they can't actually get into any of the existing programs. So that does create a bit of a hurdle. So the need for the detox facility would then start to hopefully satisfy that and address that need. The question, of course, is always, well, where is this going to be? How is it going to be operated? Who is going to fund this type of activity? What I shared at the first meeting was that it's likely that it's going to need to come from a community organization to establish a track record, to establish some form of sign of success, and then almost following the saying, build it and they will come. The funding will likely then follow if we're able to demonstrate a successful program. To that end, and since that first meeting back in November, I've been spoken with Captain Dan Williams of the Salvation Army. He's apprised me of some of the goals that the Salvation Army is looking at for the coming several years, and it kind of fits in quite well with what we've been talking about and some of the needs that we have in the community. So there have been some. We actually were going to have this forum last month, but with some activities that were going to be taking place here this last week, we felt it would be better to hold this off and have a little bit more information to share with the community. So with that, I'd kind of like to maybe turn it over to Captain Williams to share some of the information regarding what they're looking at or the possibilities of, or any possibilities of detox facilities, or that general subject.
So shall I come up and turn it over? Or?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Captain Dan Williams, Salvation Army here in Lodi. We have, in the Salvation Army, we have a retreat every year with our advisory board to talk about the needs of the community and how the Salvation Army can address some of those needs and what we can do as a group. And one of the topics was detox center. We know that in order for men and women to get into a drug and alcohol rehab program, especially the ones that are free, you can't go in with any drugs, alcohol, or anything in your system. There are some out there that you can pay for in detox, and you can go in with those, but are some of the programs that you can go into, but most of them are, you have to be drug free. So detox centers was something that we talked about. I wasn't even sure if in the Salvation Army if we had a detox center, so we began to do some investigation. We found that at Harbor Light in San Francisco, actually a Salvation Army program, actually does detox. It's a non-medical detox center. It is one where men and women can come to. The way they are set up, they have 30 beds. They have 20 of those beds are for veterans, paid for through the VA program, and 10 beds for people coming in from the community, 5 for women, 5 for men. It has been run there for many years, detox center. They did close down at one point and then reopened again about 6 years ago. We are beginning to the process myself, Jonathan Strong, who is my case manager for the men's program, and Valerie Cronin, I believe it is, from the social service person with the hospital at Lodi Memorial. We took a trip over there last week to check out the detox center that's there. It is something that we are interested as our board to look into a little bit further to see if it's something that we can actually do here in Lodi. It would be something that would definitely need to be partnered with both the city, the hospital, the community, and the Salvation Army, because it's not something that's within my budget at this point in time to be able to just open one up and to do that. Finding the right facility, finding the right things to do that. But we are willing to pursue and look at that as a board and as the Salvation Army here locally. We're looking at the cost of it. I believe the cost of the one in San Francisco right now, we had them send us their budget for the last couple of years to kind of see where they're at and how they're doing it. It is quite expensive. It's not a cheap thing to do because you have to have staff that is on duty that can identify the signs and the things that are going on within the clientele that are coming in. It is not a place where the police can just drop somebody off that they pick up this drunk and say, here, you're going here to detox, because that's not the type of program it was. It is one where you will set up an appointment, be interviewed, and if you're serious about getting clean and sober and going into a program. It would be something that if the police department, we need to look at kind of how we would want to run it, how it would be run in this community, and how well it would, what the needs are within this community to make sure that we're running it in a way that will help the people that are wanting to improve their life. Where if a police officer was to pick somebody up drunk, take them to the drunk tank for the night and tell them, hey, we have this option for you if you're really serious about getting clean, here's an option for a detox center. So we're still kind of looking at how would it be. The one we looked at down there in San Francisco was actually a detox where you would call, they would assess you, they'd ask some questions, and then admit you into the program. There is a waiting list for it there, in fact a long waiting list. There's actually 3 or 4 detox centers in San Francisco and a medical detox also in San Francisco, but there is a waiting list there. I believe that we would have a waiting list here because there's a lot of people here that would like to get clean and sober, but one of their problems is if they have no place to stay to get clean, they tend to go back out into the street, and if their buddy offers them a drink, they take the drink because it's cold at night, and they do that. If they have a joint, they'll say, here, pass it to them, they'll smoke it again, and there they are. They're back in the same boat they were. There is a need in our community for a detox. We've seen that for quite some time. I've been here almost 6 years now, and that's one of the areas that we find that the hardest part to try to get somebody to stay clean is to keep them that way. Our pre-program, we have a program within our program called a pre-program while we're waiting for people to get into a drug and alcohol rehab program. But the only thing that you can actually have in your system for that one is THC, which is marijuana, because we know that does not get out of your system for 30 days. But other than that, you cannot even get into the pre-program to get into a program. So it's something that Joseph has brought up to me many times over the last 3 years and talked to me about, and we've been trying to figure out a way that we could help. I think we do have a solution now of ways to do it, but now it's just a beginning process of starting to look at who can partner with us, how can we make it happen, and is it something that the city of Lodi will support and something that we can do. But I know that my board right now is excited about talking more about it and getting more involved in this. Anything else you wanted me to say? Because I could go on. You know me.
We have questions up here, Captain.
Oh, good, because if you have lots of questions, I'm going to probably bring Jonathan up here because he's the one investigating it for us, and he probably can answer some of them also. So,
let me start this series of questions off,
okay.
And then I'll turn it over to people like Fran, who I think might have some additional questions later.
Go right ahead.
We had this session once before on the problems of the homeless situation, the problems of the homeless, and their situation here in Lodi. And I think, as I recall, there were basically two groups of people. One was the group of people that gave the immediate action to the homeless people and problems that they faced here by giving them things like meals. And the other one was addressing, the other group wanted to address the problems that brought about homelessness. And I think yours is in the latter category, if you're talking about the detox center, because it talks about things like alcohol and drugs and how that could really be an impediment to people who are on the road to homelessness or are already homeless.
Okay.
Especially with the expenses involved here, how close are you to resolving the problem, and how effective do you think you can be, the Salvation Army can be, in terms of addressing and resolving the problems associated with the detox center and what it's trying to address, namely the alcohol and drug problems?
Okay, let me make sure I understand the question first.
Okay.
As far as controlling or getting a handle on it, first of all, the folks that are out there have to want to get clean and sober. They have to want what it is that we're offering.
Okay.
There are some that do. There are some that don't. You're going to find two categories of homeless: some that are okay with what they're doing and where they're at in their life, and some that don't. Some that want to make a better life for themselves but have no opportunity to do that because they can't seem to get away from where the drugs and the alcohol are and get into a place where they can be safe, where they can feel safe, and that they can actually get off the drugs and alcohol. So you've got two categories there. And once they want to do this, and once they, part of our program right now with the shelter it is a zero tolerance to drugs and alcohol. You cannot be on drugs or alcohol to come into the shelter. And the reason for that is because it is a safe haven for people who want to get clean and sober.
That's Salvation Army, isn't it?
That's Salvation Army.
Right.
The Salvation Army shelter here in Lodi. And that's
Some people don't, some groups, like church groups, for example, do not have that condition.
They don't have a shelter. A lot of the churches.
They don't have shelters. Yeah,
Right, correct. We're the only shelter in town.
Right.
And a lot of the churches support the shelter here in town because we are sheltering the homeless. And when you're talking about the two different people, you said the groups that are out there feeding and then the groups for a detox. And it's basically, in a lot of the groups that I've talked to that are doing the feeding, the churches that are doing the feeding out there, that are doing the feeding at Lawrence Park, that are doing these things. One of the things that, the neat thing about it is we've had a lot of conversations with the churches and stuff about the feeding out in the parks and in the public and doing that. And the one thing that we've all come to an agreement on is that, yes, what we're trying to do and what the churches are trying to do are basically the same thing. They're going out, and this is an avenue for them to be able to go out and serve the meals and to do this and begin to talk to these folks and get to know them, get their trust, talk with them a little bit and say, hey, here are programs out there to help you to get from homelessness to get back on your feet. And here are some of those programs. And a lot of them funnel those right back into the Salvation Army and into our program. And then we funnel these folks into drug and alcohol rehab programs in Stockton, Sacramento, Oakland, San Francisco, Lytton Springs. And we begin to do that. So it's kind of like, it all begins where how can I get my foot in the door to sit and talk with some of the folks that are in the need in our community. And that's what the churches are doing. They're trying to go out there and get their foot in the door to say, hey, there's something better in life than what you're doing today. Is this where you want to be, or is it something better? And they begin to talk to them and begin to get them to understand that there is something better and that they need to go do that. The problem is there is a gap between them doing that and them getting into our program so that we can help them. And that gap is the alcohol and the drugs that they're on today that doesn't allow them to come into the program until they are able to come in clean and sober. And that gap is what we're talking about in a detox center. And yes, to answer, if your question is, do we think we can make a difference with that? I believe we can. Because even if you had 20 people in this community, and I'm just going to throw 20 out there because it's an easy number for me to do. You do 20. We pretty much figure 50% of those will actually go into a detox and actually begin the journey to get clean and sober because they want something better for their life. They're tired of living out there. They know they're sick. They know they're tired. They aren't going to live much longer if they keep living this way. They understand that they've been like this for a long time, but they're understanding, I don't have much more time. And we've noticed in the last few years, and you can ask a few of the people who are in this room right now, we've seen a lot of our friends that are out there that have died because of alcoholism, because of the cold, because they're out there and they were ones we lost and weren't able to get into a program and do that. But even if we took half of that percentage, because the percentage is about 50% of the people that you try to get into a detox will actually go into a detox and do it. So about 50%. There's 50% of those. That's 10 people that you've gotten off the street. You've gotten out into a detox, and probably about 6 to 8 of those will actually go in further and go to a drug and alcohol rehab program. Out of that, 80% of that will probably graduate that program and begin their life and stay clean and sober. So you're looking at about 4 or 5 people out of 20 that will actually go through a program and actually stay clean and sober.
It's quite a few.
And that's those getting off the street. Now I know that we have about 100, I think in the last count that we did, we had over 100 homeless in Lodi, which there were probably a lot more than that, because as we know, as we've done these counts every other year, we know that all of them are going to come out of and visit us and let us know that they're homeless or where they're at or what's happening. So we know that 101, that's how many we counted, but we know there's more than that. And most of those, and the biggest percentage of those, is because of alcohol and drugs. It has something to do with those two things. And so the idea that if we can get this started, and yes, do I believe that the Salvation Army could do it if we had the partnership and the ability to get the facility, the funding and everything else? Oh yeah, it's something we do.
How expensive is it?
Well, the one in San Francisco, let me grab some papers here. All right, oh, there it is. The one in San Francisco, and like I said, that's 20 beds for veterans and 10 beds for the community, 5 for women, 5 for men. And their program cost them last year $509,000.
Wow.
For the year, yeah, for the year. It cost $500,000 to run a program like that. But that, like I said, that's 20 beds for vets. What we were talking about, and Jonathan, come on up here for a minute. This is Jonathan Strong. You had a breakdown on what you thought for Lodi that we would look at as a facility. What was that breakdown?
I was thinking right around 15 to 20 beds. It wouldn't be a large facility like this, maybe about half the size, and maybe 10 beds for men, 5 beds for women. There are less women homeless that we do see. They have a huge need. There is a great need there for the women's side of it. So I'm thinking maybe about half the bed space. And
Well, isn't that what San Francisco is right now, 20 beds?
30.
30.
beds. Oh, 30 beds.
20 for vets, 5 for men and 5 for women.
Correct.
Now on that 509,000, does that account for the money that the VA is putting into it, or is that on top of that?
No, that accounts for the whole program.
And the number that San Francisco supplied per client is about $60 per day per client. And that is, from what I can figure out, that's including the facility cost, the staff. So that's $60 per day per client. So depending on the facility, that's a big cost right there. Where are you going to have this? So you can figure, $60 a day, that's going to feed somebody, that's going to provide the staff to monitor them. So.
Let me just ask one more question. At this last session that we had on with this group, part of our function is to become a public forum so that we can have issues like this raised and discussed by the public. It seemed to me that the issue as to whether or not we should continue to do the meals by the churches, etc., was first of all, it was a good idea, and we should continue that. Secondly, as to the long-range problems or the problems involved in people becoming homeless or getting into a homeless state, which we wanted to avoid, it sounded like there were a number of people, myself included, I think, that were very pessimistic about whether or not we could tackle those problems even. Because they weren't limited to homeless people, they were limited, they were much more extensive than that, and they, like alcohol and drugs, for example, are more of a community-wide problem that more than just the homeless would be able to take advantage of in terms of a detox center, for example. But I have a great deal of faith in the Salvation Army, and it seems to me that the Salvation Army, if anyone can do it, it would be you people that would be able to do it. Is that your feeling on this too, Captain Williams?
It is, and I will agree with you. It is not just a homeless problem. We have people living in their homes right now that are alcoholics or drug addicts, and there's a lot of domestic violence going on because of alcohol and drugs in homes where people don't admit they have a problem or anything else. And this
Even
is
gangs.
even in the gangs and everything else. And so this is an opportunity. If we had a detox center, like I said, it would not just be a homeless thing. It would be a deal where anyone who needs to get cleaned up long enough to get into a program would be able to go to. So it's not just a homeless problem. It is a community-wide problem and
You
something
think
we
that
look at.
the Salvation Army would be the vehicle by which this would be addressed and resolved?
Well, let's remember, we're in the beginning stages of looking at
Right,
this
right.
and whether or not, because I don't want to say, yes, we will do that until we have all of our figures and everything else to make sure that we
Right,
can.
I understand that.
But yes, it's something that the Salvation Army is interested in looking at for the community, yes.
And if I could interject, and one of the key points I think that was made at the very first forum is that no one program is the be-all, end-all answer.
That's true.
This is a complex problem, and it's going to take a number of different types of programs and services in order to really truly address the need. And it's not just here in Lodi. There will need to be facilities at the county-wide basis that if Lodi creates a working model here, the idea is not just, okay, now Lodi is then going to take over the brunt of the need for the entire San Joaquin County. It's the idea is to along the way also bring in partners with San Joaquin General and the other cities, other hospitals, to then deal with, as he stated, the situations where you've got somebody that's picked up and the police need to take them to a detox facility. It's not going to be necessarily voluntary, and it's not, you know, the preference would be to not take them to the emergency room, because I think we can easily find numbers to show just how much the cost is for one individual annually going through dealing with detoxification or drug and alcohol issues when they're run through the existing emergency services. So it's one of those hospitals. So, you know, what the Salvation Army could do is one of the building blocks or one of the tools necessary to address this. There are a number of other elements that still need to be looked at, both here in Lodi and throughout San Joaquin County, and that's one of the things that hopefully we're going to try and catch attention and invite. Wasn't able to have someone from San Joaquin General here this evening, but I'm going to still continue that discussion as part of the overall county-wide effort on homeless issues. So.
And that's kind of what, you know, when I started, it needs to be a partnership. It's not just going to be us being able to do that. As Justin said, we're going to need the community, the hospital, the city, the different ones to come on board so that we can put something together that would work. But we're willing to look at that and see how we can help to do that or facilitate or whatever, you know, it is. Because it is a problem and it is something that we need in our community.
Any questions from the committee?
I've got a couple comments. Captain, you mentioned the VA picks up 20 of the 30 people in San Francisco. If I understood your numbers right, that would be that they're picking up 2/3 of the cost of veterans. Would the same type of program be instituted here? For example, let's say you started a detox center. and you delegated 10 for veterans and 10 for non-veterans. Is it possible that those 10 could be funded by the VA?
It probably wouldn't be funded completely, but it would take up, absorb a lot of the cost for it. We do run a VA program right now here in Lodi, transitional grant per diem program here for homeless vets. And we have 10 beds, so we already have a relationship with them in doing that. And I would say that, yes, with the 10 beds for VA, it would pick up some of the costs. It would also, if we were looking at purchasing a building or getting a building for this, they would probably allow us, because through their programs, we could get money from them to help pay for a building, along with, maybe CDBG or other funds that we have through the county and the city to purchase a facility or find a facility that we can get, next to nothing to be able to do this in. So, yeah, I would say that if we did this and we were willing to, like I said, that was another partner that maybe we look at to put this thing together. We want to look at every avenue of every way to get financially stable to where we can do it, where it will continue and not be just something that happens for a short period of time and then no longer exist. Just to give you an idea, last month, we had a gentleman come to us this last week. In fact, it was really interesting because it was the day before we were headed to San Francisco. We really needed detox bad. Jonathan got to talking to this gentleman, and last month alone, he was in the emergency room 23 times. Last month. And we took Valerie with us, the social service worker from the hospital, to San Francisco to see this, and we had a wonderful conversation there and back. Just in our hospital alone, emergency room, if we did a detox and got 50% of the people off and quit coming to the emergency room, it would just it would save so many dollars for our emergency room. It would save, our community. I really believe it will save for our police department, our community, our city, if we had one. And I think there's some way we can figure out that the cost of running a detox center is going to be a heck of a lot less than what it costs to put them in an emergency room 23 times in a month. And a lot of these were not just because they were having DTs or getting sick. They're getting beat up. They're getting drunk. The gangs will beat them up, take whatever they do have or whatever, and they're going to the hospital because they're beat up. They look terrible. And that's what this gentleman did. He was beat up. And that's part of them going to that is because of the alcohol and everything else and the drugs. They end up going to our emergency room because they really need the help because they're hurt. So I just want to see us try to figure out a way that we can eliminate some of that.
Captain Williams, I understood when you said at the beginning of your presentation that you wanted to partner with other groups. And I understand that. I understand what Joseph is saying too. But there was a clear division of people and what they represented in terms of the homeless problems or homeless issues and how they arose and what they were prepared to do about it here. And one was, I shouldn't call it a quick fix, but that's kind of what it was, in that they were there to give meals on a preliminary basis to address the homeless problems, or the problems that the homeless faced, that part is quite different from what you're talking about, because you're addressing detoxification, which is more of a root problem as far as I'm concerned. But do you think there's room for both in terms of addressing this situation?
I do think there's room for both because of the reason is like I said, doing the feeding and stuff is taking care of an issue that they have where they're hungry. And that they're taking care of that, but at the same time, while they're taking care of that, they're also sharing two things with them. They're sharing God with them, and they're sharing that there is a hope and there is something better for them in their life. And I guarantee you, I'd love to say I guarantee you, but all the churches I've talked to that are doing the feeding, that I've talked to, that have come to me and that we've talked to and sat around and talked about, their whole concern is not just giving them a handout, but to give them a hand up. They're wanting to get them to a point where they're wanting to come off the street and get into a program where they can get help. They tell me, the churches tell me when they go out and feed, they tell them there is hope and there is a program and they can get better. And so I would say they go hand in hand. Right now, one side of the group's probably saying to you, yeah, we're feeding, we're taking care of, we're doing this, and we're doing what we can to do that until they are ready to make that decision to go do it. But we're going to keep showing them love so that they understand that somebody does care about them. And then once they do that and they get to that point, because we got men and women that are in our program or who have gone through our program, that people said they would never go through a program. They would never get clean and sober. They would never make a difference in their life. And I can guarantee you they make a difference in their life, because once they want to change and they walk through that door and they begin that journey, they make a change. But we're missing the one point here, and that is the thing that goes between those two groups that you're talking about, and that's a detox. Detox is going to get them from being out there needing the sandwich, because I'm going to tell you right now, I want to work myself out of a job. I want to get everybody out of homelessness, get them on back doing their own thing, and work myself out of a job and go do something else then. But at this point in time, we have a group of people that we need help to get through this. Detox is going to be the thing that we need to do to make that transition easier. Because those that want to do it, because I said to you before, there are two homeless. There are those that aren't gonna, they're just gonna stay out there until that moment comes where they hit so rock bottom that they're gonna die out there, and they realize it finally, and they're gonna say, I need help. But the problem, and those that want it, but the problem is there's no place for those that want it right now to go get cleaned up long enough to get into that program. That's what we're talking about. We need to get a place where they can go to get clean, to get to that program, so that they can make that difference, and then it's up to them. They'll go through that 6-month program or whatever that program is, then it's up to them or whether or not they stay that way. But they've had the chance.
Is there a program that the Salvation Army in Lodi now takes on that is more important than this detox center that you're talking about? Is there a program
More important?
more important than the detox?
What do you mean? You mean that I would
Is this the
cancel
most
one of the
important program that you are thinking about having?
on the new ones in my strategic plan, or the ones I already have?
Well, both.
Every program that we're doing right now, in fact, we're getting ready to open our single parent with children housing. We have 3 units that'll open up on April 14th. I wouldn't give that up for the world, because I need to help men with children and women with boys over the age of 10 to get into a place. The programs that we're doing, this is the deal. This program goes hand in hand with what we're doing already. This allows the people to go from homelessness to get into what we're doing so that we can help them. It goes in hand, and everything that we do is a full circle to bring them back to being productive citizens. Last night we did an annual dinner, and the last thing I did at that annual dinner, we had a speaker, and it was one of our graduates from our program and from our college that came off the streets, was an alcoholic, went through an ARC program, came back to us, went through our culinary arts school, is now a cook at Woodbridge Country Club. He was our speaker, but right after, and he's been doing that, he carves. I can show you a picture of his carving he did last night for our event. It's gorgeous, of a watermelon, and it was just beautiful. And this guy has so much talent, because you know what, we forget about one thing, it's our homeless have a lot of talent. They're no different than us. We're almost one step away from, a lot of us, from being out there ourselves. And a lot of these men and women were lawyers, were chief of polices, all kinds of things in their life. They've come from all walks of life, and we kind of forget about that sometimes, and the abilities that they have in their life, and if we just give them a chance, they can do that. And last night, right after we were done, and as we were ending, as he finished speaking, I said, John, stay right here. And I asked the congregation, the group that was there last night, out of the 300 plus people, and 50 people in that group stood up next to John last night, because they too went through Hope Harbor, through the drug and alcohol rehab program, and they were people on our streets who were living on our streets, who were drinking, who we thought never had a chance. But today they're standing before a group of people in our community that they sat with last night, and those people that they sat with didn't even know they came from the streets. They were no different than anyone else, and we got to remember that. As we talk about these things and these programs and everything else, we got to remember these are people. These are no different than us. 21 years ago, I was an alcoholic and a drug addict. I've been clean and sober for 21 years, and I stand before you today as a pastor of the Salvation Army and a captain of the Salvation Army, and I'm going to tell you, if somebody didn't take the chance with me and give me that chance, I wouldn't be here today. And I'm going to tell you right now, these people are no different than us. They're our neighbors, and we got to figure out how we do this. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think those two groups of people you were talking about at the last forum, I didn't get to make it because I was out of town, but I'm going to tell you, this would bring it together, because we all have the same heart and the same goal in mind, and that is to help these people. And each one of us are doing it in the way that we can. We are all a part of that body, a part of that community, and each one of us have a part to play. And each one of us are playing those parts, and this part is the part that's missing. It's almost like taking a body, and if Frankenstein was built but didn't have a heart in it, he wasn't ever going to get up and walk or do anything else. We've built a body, we've got a lot of the things already in process, we already got a lot of things working, we're just missing a few pieces. And I think this is one of the pieces that we're missing. And it's something that the Army is willing to look at to see how we can play our part to help do it.
I think we had more input.
Yeah, I'm Jonathan Strong, Salvation Army. Last meeting, Mr. Litton, you mentioned about the corporate partners that come to the city, come to the community and say, we want to open a facility, or we want to open our store.
Right.
And we want to help the community, that we want to supply jobs. Now, you mentioned that partnering also with them. So what I would present is the next time we do have a forum about this subject, this topic, is to see some of those representatives, maybe from the business side of the community. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm totally with you on that. And that's, yeah, I mean, that would be nice to see those people come in and sit down and have this conversation with us.
And because how I see this forum is about homelessness tonight. However, there's a road to homelessness. You don't just wake up one day and you're homeless. There's a road to that. So most homeless people that I work with are friends. They've been working. They've had jobs. They have careers. They have professions. And another issue that a detox would address is not just for the homeless in this community, it's for the people that are working and have a substance abuse problem, and that the businesses could support this for their employees instead of maybe losing a good employee because of a substance abuse issue. They can get into a program through a detox, and they could refer people, and I could really see partnership in that way as well, because Lodi is unique. Lodi does have some unique positives, that in Stockton there is a lot of violence associated with the homeless community in Stockton. There is a tremendous amount of violence because, in my opinion, personal opinion, is the facilities there that house the homeless. One of the challenges is that it's not a clean and sober environment, and it's very dangerous. And a lot of our friends that are homeless here in Lodi they come through Stockton and come through that area and come from that area, and they come here because it is safe, because this is a loving community. We do have the feedings, we do have the clean and sober shelter, so that is not a problem in our community. I think it's a benefit that this is a safe place for people to come that are struggling with homelessness or almost homelessness, people living in their cars. So that's a positive that we have here. And as we build on that as a community, businesses, and when they want to come to this community and open up, this is, hey, let's partner together. You're established here because this is a great community, and it's a great community, and we need your help. So and as I go and do my job, I'm going to start talking to business people as I see them, and next time that we do have a forum, I'd like to be able to bring some people myself. So maybe I could challenge or give everybody the opportunity that if you do know somebody that owns a business or works somewhere, invite them, invite their managers, invite their supervisors. They're dealing with this issue maybe on another side of it. So I just want to throw that out there. Thank you.
Is your name Jonathan?
Yes, Jonathan. Yes,
Jonathan. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was an excellent point. And that relates to what I was trying to raise before, and that is there anything unique about Lodi? And I think as Jonathan has pointed out, it relates to just about all facets of life, really. And the issues that lead to homelessness, this path that leads to homelessness, the path that leads to the detox center, is a path that is not limited to the homeless population, but can be advanced in favor of, or to the populace, the citizens as a whole of Lodi. And what I don't want to happen is that I don't want to have the mentality of not in our own backyard type of mentality where we want the homeless, like gang members, to just go away from Lodi. And I think what you're addressing is the root cause of one of the issues, at least, of homelessness, and that is involved in the detox center. And I think that that's very commendable on the Salvation Army's part, and I think we should commend them for taking the laboring oar on that issue. But let me ask if there are any other questions or any other comments from the audience. Mr. Vogel, would you like to say a few words?
Just a few words to commend the community and commend this board for the forum, because I think you've touched on a few things here that are so important. One is the services that you can help for the people who are homeless, maybe near homeless, and the others who need help through a detox center who maybe aren't homeless but have this problem. The recognition that these problems exist, the recognition that there are people out there that need help is an important step. There are some communities that have said, we don't have these problems. Communities have these problems, believe me. Whether it's at this level or that level or this level, the problems are there. So taking the steps to involve the community, to have people come out, your involvement, I think is important. The partnerships can be done. The money can be found. I'm not sure what the county has, but at least the idea is, yeah, I know, checks in the mail. But you got to start someplace. And this is a starting place to build on this, so I think it can be done. I think all these things can be built on for the benefit of those people in the community.
Thank you, Mr. Vogel. Any other members of the committee want to say anything to add? Yes, sir.
I got
Doug?
one little thing to say, Bob. I think the real ideal scenario for, actually for a forum would be to get all of us groups that actually work with the homeless, you know.
You want to use the mic, Doug?
Oh, okay.
And I ask you that only because that's the best way to get you on record.
Okay. I'm Doug Cheney, and I'm with a Hand Up, and I just kind of work with all the groups here in Lodi that can stand to have me around, I guess. But I think the ideal scenario would be to get all of the groups and even the individuals that do any kind of work with the homeless, mentor, provide resources, feed, clothing, could all get together as one big unit and have a forum such as this, say at least quarterly or monthly, if it would be possible, to, you know, kind of share, because we do have some organizations that do a little work and a lot of work, and we really don't know what a lot of them really do, how in-depth they are, or you know, whether they have a little food bank or what kind of resourcing they have. And I think that would, if we could just somehow touch all these organizations and people and get us all together and find out what each group basically, you know, does as a major part of their little mission, that would be one great step to really, you know, getting down to a solution to the problem.
Thank you. Thank you, Doug.
Hi, I'm Kathy McClellan. I'm the director of an organization called Building Blocks. We are a local charity in the area that we do seek hope for families. And we have been servicing the community for 10 years, and we have over 1,600 families registered with us. And on a monthly basis, we serve over 400 families in some shape or form, whether it is food, clothing, whether it is school supplies for children. One of the things that we do is that we try to keep families from becoming homeless. We try to keep them focused on there is hope. I work weekly on knowing where people are hiring, where job applications available. Housing. I had someone yesterday I spent time with that is needing to relocate due to finances that are shrinking. They don't want to become homeless. They need to find a place that's less expensive here in town. So I have to stay up on top of, what houses are available and what size homes are. And due to our circumstances, though, we are got ourselves in a position now that we're over at 701 North Stockton Street, and our facility is in not a good condition, and I want to keep a healthy condition for my families. Because we are independent, we run on a very, very, very strict, tight financial budget. We ran our entire budget last year on $20,000, and we served over 3,000 boxes of food. We took care of over 200 children at Christmas. We ran 2 camps in the summer that serviced over 106 children, and that's just the beginning of our agenda for last year. And so I'm seeking a new location. I'm trying to find a place that I can keep helping the families, that I can keep staying in touch. And I know what Captain Dan is talking about. I mean, there's some folks that I'm very close with emotionally that we have shifted through their facility, but there's many folks that we've been able to keep from going to their facility because we've been able to keep them, clothes on their children. If I can help a family pay their electric bill with the money, little bit of money they're making by putting shoes on their kids' feet, then that's what I need to do. And so I'm seeking a location. I'm seeking help, and I brought a little letter about what we're needing. We're needing not a big location, but not a tiny location because we do so much. But I'm seeking a place that would service between 3,000 to 5,000 square feet so that we could maintain the mission that we have been approaching. My husband and my goal is to keep people focused that they were born into this world for a purpose. None of us were a mistake. None of us were here by accident. We all have a purpose, and that we're very valuable, and that we work with young people to keep them from coming into the gangs. My heart is very, very heavy right now because there's a child in the hospital that was shot a couple of nights ago. I've been working with this child for 2 years. Some way, somehow that night, he still ended up on that street. That is killing me. And I'm going to be part of helping plan that funeral for that girl. That is very saddening. I want to keep those statistics down. I want to see my camps grow in the summer. I don't want to see parents not be able to send their kids to a camp. So we work, because our camps work from ages 3 up through 18 and go into the 20s. We even do a camp for young 20-year-olds. And so I'm making a facility, my husband and I. My husband is not with me tonight because we support ourselves. We are not employed by any organization. So my husband works a secular job, and he wasn't home from work yet. And so we're seeking a place that we keep maintaining what we have been doing over the past 10 years. We are a member of the Chamber of Commerce. We are recognized by quite a few of the churches. We like I said, we are an independent charity. We are 501c3, so we are recognized by the state. So if anyone has any ideas or any places for us, we would be more than welcome, because the last thing we want to do is close our doors. That is the last thing we want to do. And I have these letters that, can I just sit them right here, sir?
Yes.
Okay, and then that way they'll be available for anyone that is interested in them. And all I can say is, I'm like the other folks, we need to work together. And I truly believe that if we have an organization such as Building Blocks, which is like a mission of its own for families, and we have a place like Salvation Army that knows and has for over 100 years worked with people that are destitute and get themselves in a place. And then we have groups, small groups, you know, that whether they're doing meals out in the parks or at the train station. If we work together, together, you know, we're not this denomination and we're not this organization, but we are a family within the realms of Lodi. We could set it on the map, is all I got to say. Because there's too many cities seeking to see what we already have got started. We just haven't figured out how to niche it together. And I truly believe there is a way to knit us together where we can work together to accomplish a lot that we've already got started.
Thank you very much, Kathy. I think those are very well stated words. But nonetheless, I think the rest of us are all very enthused about what you're saying, but I think that you're right. I think what we need to have is more dialogue, more conversation, more communication among the people of Lodi to determine what needs to be done, not only in terms of the detox center. And thank you, Captain Williams, for your outstanding presentation this evening. And we hope that this dialogue will continue in the future, and we wish you the very best in that regard as well. Thank you. Joseph, with that, if you have any parting words, you're welcome to state them at this time or to go on with the agenda.
No, I just want to thank everyone for coming out this evening, and if you have any need to follow up, you can contact the Improvement Committee or through my office, email address of jwood@lodi.gov. So.
Okay.
More